24. That is the number of Christian broadcasters, including more than a dozen of the biggest names in American religious television, who pulled their programs from the Daystar Television Network between November 2024 and June 2025. 24 ministries. Gone. Joyce Meyer, Greg Laurie, Jack Hibbs, Ray Comfort, Jesse Duplantis, Jack Graham, Lance Wallnau, James Merritt, the recorded broadcasts of the late Adrian Rogers. Names that represent decades of relationship with this network, programs that, in some cases, had aired on Daystar for years, audiences that combined number in the tens of millions. They did not all leave for the same stated reason. Some made public announcements, some simply disappeared from the schedule without a word, but they left in a cluster so concentrated, so clearly linked to a single period and a single set of revelations, that the mathematics of coincidence does not hold. They all knew something, and they all made the same decision. Today we are going to talk about what they knew, why they left when they did, and what it means for the future of an institution that once reached more American homes than any other Christian broadcaster on Earth. The network, what was being protected. First, the scale. Daystar Television Network is not a small operation. At its peak, it reached 64.7 million American homes, more than Trinity Broadcasting Network, which had long held the top spot in Christian television. Internationally, it claimed a reach extending into over 2 billion homes through cable, satellite, and streaming. Built by Marcus and Joni Lamb from a single local station in Alabama in 1984, it grew over 4 decades into something extraordinary. A billion-dollar institution, a platform for hundreds of ministries, a daily presence in the lives of millions of viewers who relied on it for faith-based content. The people who cast on Daystar were not small. Joyce Meyer's show, Enjoying Everyday Life, aired daily and reached audiences across multiple continents. Greg Laurie's Harvest Ministry is one of the most recognized evangelical outreach organizations in America. Jack Hibbs pastors one of the largest Calvary Chapel congregations in the country. These are not fringe figures. They are major institutions in their own right, and they chose to associate their names and their audiences with Daystar for years, until they didn't. What started the exodus? November 2024. The departure wave can be traced to a specific moment. In November 2024, investigative journalist Julie Roys, whose organization, The Roys Report, has established itself as one of the most rigorous accountability journalism outlets in American Christian media, published detailed reporting on allegations involving Daystar's leadership. The allegations were serious. They included claims from Joni Lamb's son, Jonathan Lamb, and his wife Susie, that a child in the family had been subjected to abuse, and that when Jonathan brought this to his parents, he was reportedly urged not to go to the police. Joni Lamb denied these allegations completely and forcefully. She called them false, accused Jonathan of fabricating a campaign motivated by his failure to be named network president after Marcus's death, and terminated his employment from the network. The police were contacted. Colleyville Police Department opened an investigation. In May 2025, that investigation was closed with no charges filed, the department citing insufficient evidence, while noting the case could be reopened if new disclosures emerged. Daystar posted a statement on social media describing the closure as a vindication. Jonathan and Susie Lamb did not retract their account, but by the time the police investigation concluded, the broadcasting landscape on Daystar had already fundamentally changed. The departures. Who left and what they said. The first wave came quickly after the Roys Report's initial coverage in November 2024. Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson left, then Baruch Corman, then Jesse Duplantis, then Lance Wallnau, then Jack Graham's PowerPoint Ministries. In January 2025, Joyce Meyer Ministries, one of the most significant broadcasting relationships in Daystar's history, announced it was pausing its partnership with the network. The statement, shared with the Dallas Morning News by Joyce Meyer's son and ministry CEO Dan Meyer, was precise about the reason. The ministry said it had become troubled by allegations surrounding the Daystar Television Network, and that due to the nature of these allegations and Joyce Meyer's own story, it felt a profound responsibility to stand for truth and create space for its discovery. That phrase, "my mom's own story," is significant. Joyce Meyer has spoken publicly for years about experiencing abuse in her childhood and the long process of healing that followed. Her decision to pause her Daystar relationship was not simply institutional, it was personal. Jimmy Evans also announced his departure in the same period. By June 2025, the count had reached 24 documented departures, along with Joyce Meyer, Ray Comfort, Jesse Duplantis, Lance Wallnow, James Merritt, and Jack Graham. The departures included Greg Laurie and Jack Hibbs, bringing to 24 the number of Christian programmers, including more than a dozen high-profile broadcasters who had removed their programs from the network. The ones who stayed, and what that tells us. Not everyone left. Joel Osteen remained on Daystar, Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, Robert Jeffress, Samuel Rodriguez, Alan Jackson. Their continued presence was noted, sometimes with surprise, sometimes with criticism, by observers in the Christian media space who felt that the scale of the allegations and the cluster of departures warranted a clearer response from remaining partners. Some observers publicly questioned why C. Urton pastors who had publicly endorsed Daystar continued their relationship with the network, while others like Joyce Meyer had determined they needed to step back. The decision to stay was not in most cases publicly explained. Networks and ministries rarely issue statements about what they choose to remain part of. The silence is its own kind of answer, or its own kind of calculation. The financial picture, what the numbers revealed. Alongside the abuse allegations, a separate financial dimension emerged that added to the pressure on broadcasters. The Roy's report revealed that Joni Lamb denied using ministry funds to pay for a honeymoon in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, with her second husband, Doug Weiss. However, expense report records obtained by the publication indicated otherwise, and the ministry did not provide documentation showing Joni Lamb had reimbursed Daystar for the more than $100,000 expense. For ministries that depend on donor trust, whose entire operational model rests on the credibility of their stewardship, this kind of allegation is not incidental. It goes to the core question that every donor, every supporter, and every broadcasting partner has to answer for themselves. Is the money being handled the way it should be? Daystar's structure compounds this concern. As a church organization, it is not required to file the standard IRS Form 9-90 that most nonprofits submit publicly. Its finances are, by legal design, shielded from the kind of transparency that would allow broadcasters or viewers to conduct independent due diligence. For some of the departing ministries, this opacity, combined with the specific allegations about the honeymoon expenses, was part of what made continued association untenable. Doug Weiss, the second layer. Then there is the question of Doug Weiss. Weiss, who became Joni Lamb's second husband in June 2023 and her on it ball. Ear co-host almost immediately afterward brought his own complicated professional history to the network. The state of Colorado's professional licensing boards had issued him 2 formal letters of admonition, one in 2002 for misrepresenting his credentials by using a professional title he was not licensed to hold, and a second in 2010 in which the board found that during a marital counseling intensive, he had failed to implement appropriate therapeutic interventions. In 2010, in the board's own language, he was found to have essentially rushed clients toward divorce rather than providing the therapeutic support they had sought. 7 former clients of his heart-to-heart counseling center subsequently gave accounts to investigators describing sessions they said left them more traumatized than before they arrived. Weiss and Daystar did not substantively respond to those accounts. For broadcasters considering their continued association with a network now led by someone with this documented professional history, the calculation became considerably more complex. What the departures actually signal. Here is what 24 departures in the space of roughly 7 months actually means. In the broadcasting world, particularly in religious broadcasting, where relationships between networks and ministry partners can span decades, this kind of concentrated departure is not normal. It does not happen because of routine contract disputes or strategic realignment. The departures brought to 24 the number of Christian programmers who had pulled their programs from the network, a figure that observers described as atypical for a single contract cycle. When broadcasters who have built careers on messages of accountability, integrity, and the importance of truth-telling look at a network and decide they cannot remain there, they are making a judgment, not about the investigation's final outcome, about the culture that produced the situation in the first place. Joyce Meyer's son put it plain. Thus, they felt a responsibility to stand for truth and create space for its discovery. That is not a legal judgment, it is a moral one. And 24 ministries made the same moral judgment in the same concentrated window for reasons that are not hard to understand once you know what they knew. Joni Lamb died on May 7, 2026. The network she built continues to operate. Her daughter Rachel Lamb Brown has taken on expanded hosting duties. The board has confirmed that a leadership structure was put in place before Joni's death. The questions that drove the departures, about governance, about the allegations that were never formally resolved, about the financial transparency of an institution that viewers trusted with their donations for decades, do not disappear because the founder has died. If anything, the transition of leadership makes them more urgent. Whether the 24 ministries that left ever return, whether the ones that stayed will face pressure to reconsider, whether the institution can rebuild trust with broadcasters, donors, and viewers who watched what happened and formed their own conclusions. These are the questions Daystar enters this next chapter carrying. The departures told you what the people closest to this world knew. The next chapters will tell you what they decide to do with it. 24 ministries, one concentrated window, one set of allegations that nobody could ignore. The people who left were not making a legal determination. They were making a character judgment about what kind of institution they wanted to be associated with and what kind of message that association sends to the people who trust them. Whether you agree with their decisions or not, whether you think they left too soon, too late, or should not have left at all, they made those decisions publicly and they explained their reasons. That transparency is itself worth so. Me thing in a story that has had very little of it. Drop your thoughts below. Did the right people leave? Did the right ones stay? And what do you think Daystar looks like a year from now?